Welcome. It is Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz, post-Super Bowl show. Nice to have you with us, Senator. I know you were just really excited about the halftime show. You didn't watch any of the game, though, but that part you were there for, I'm assuming, right?
Well, it's Super Bowl Sunday. I will say I had the great joy of being on an airplane during a lot of the Super Bowl, so I caught part of the third quarter, and that was about it. So I didn't watch much. I got a field goal. That was about it. I did not see the halftime show, although I did pull it up on my phone and watch part of it afterwards. But look, I mean, the Super Bowl. A lot of times I'll go to a Super Bowl party. In this case, I was just flying and landing in Texas, so got home midway through. I got to say, a lot of the noise about the halftime show, I just found myself not caring. Like I know that there were a lot of folks all worked up, and on the right, you're supposed to be outraged that Bad Bunny.
There was no English spoken. I couldn't understand the damn word the guy was saying. Yeah. I'm not bilingual like you are, though, Senator. There's a difference. See, you understood it. I didn't.
Benjamin, look, we Latinos, a little bit of Spanish won't kill you. I don't like the guy's politics. At the Grammys, I thought he made an ass of himself, like saying "ice out." That I don't like, and I don't really like when celebrities try to force their politics on us. But I watched him in the sugar cane and dancing around. I think most of the halftime shows are kind of silly, so this didn't strike me as particularly unusual in more or less silliness. The guy falls through a roof and lands in someone's apartment. That was just kind of strange, but it was. I found myself.
Are we at the level now where you just say if you're like a singer and this is what you do, you just don't give a crap?
Oh, look, I mean, my girls like Bad Bunny.
We're on the edge.
I have to admit, he's not on my playlist, but I have a 15 and 17-year-old daughter, and they listen to him some. Most of the halftime shows don't do much for me. I mean, they're fine. They're typically like pop singers, and I tend to listen to more country music or classic rock anyway. So look, it was. We've already talked more in the last 4 minutes about it than I've probably thought about the whole thing.
I love it. I love it. By the way, did you see that Turning Point had 5 million live watching on YouTube?
Yeah, and look, Kid Rock, Kid Rock testified before the Senate this past week, and so I got to visit with Kid Rock. He came by my office. He was a nice guy. I liked him. But to be honest, I was on a plane for Kid Rock's too, so I didn't watch either one of them. I will say also, as we talked about last week on the pod, on Friday I was at my Tia Sonia's funeral, and that was up in Dallas, and I spoke at the funeral. And my sister spoke at the funeral, and my cousin Bibi spoke, and my dad spoke, and both my niece and nephew spoke. And, it was a real celebration of my Tia Sonia, and actually played a lot of Spanish music because my Tia Sonia liked it. So, I enjoyed that more than the snippet I saw of Bad Bunny, but, that's fine. But I have to say I was just kind of... it was a beautiful funeral. She was 82. As folks know, we put out last week the interview that we did. We had my Tia Sonia on Verdict and interviewed her, and she was a freedom fighter. She fought against Fidel Castro in Cuba. She was thrown in prison. She was tortured. Actually, she was, along with my Tia Miriam and my Tia Mela. Neither of them are my aunts, but just in Latin culture, you just kind of collect tias. Yeah. By the way, if you're a kid, every one of the tias will spank every one of the kids. I mean, it's literally just kind of like...
That's law and order. That's just how that's supposed to go.
If there's a kid misbehaving, anyone will do that. You whack the kid. And I got a lot of...
you had a lot of those then in your life when you were a kid.
Well, and their weapon of choice was the chancleta. which is this.
You're gonna have to Bad Bunny translate this for me. What does that mean?
Okay, a chancleta was this like heavy rubber sandal she would wear.
Yeah.
And my Tia Sonia could pull off the chancleta off of her foot, throw it, and she'd whack you in the back of the head. And it was like this, boomerang, pow, and you'd be like, wow, that hurt. She was very good at it. But, look, what I liked about the funeral is it captured her spirit. She was loud. She was fiery. She was a warrior for liberty. Listen, when you've been thrown in prison and tortured by communists, freedom matters a lot to you. I told the story at the funeral about how when I first ran for Senate back in 2012, and I was running against the lieutenant governor who was worth a couple $100 million, and so put $35 million of his own money in the race and just ran saturation attack ads. And my Tia Sonia, she was furious, and she cursed like a sailor. And she was like, I will blankety blank kick his ass. And I'm like, Tia, calmate, which just means calm down.
Yeah.
It's not good politically for you to be beating up my opponents. And by the way, you would not want to fight my Tia Sonia. She would.
I believe you.
She was ferocious. I did have a rule. My Tia Sonia was not allowed to talk to reporters. And she'd be like, why not?
That's a great rule.
I'm like, Tia, because I know you, and you're liable to say anything. You're liable to curse them out. It's from the heart, but let's just keep those sentiments within the family. There's a reason I called her my Tia Loca, my crazy aunt. But I got to tell the story about just a couple of weeks ago when I went up to see her, and she was in the hospital. And she was fading fast. She was kind of coming in and out of consciousness, and she wasn't entirely able to understand everything that was happening.
Yeah.
And you could tell we were in the last days. But I had the chance to tell her, I said, Tia, they got Maduro. They arrested Maduro, and I told her, Tia, the Cuban communist government is going to fall soon. And she just beamed. The smile on her face, wow. Yeah. It was beautiful, and it was a celebration of life. Look, I'm sad. We're all sad that she's gone. But she led a full life. Every minute she loved living. And she brought joy. She brought unconditional support. She was ferociously loyal. So, yeah, I was thinking much more about that than Bad Bunny.
Than some guy named Bad Bunny.
And by the way, I was glad, at least, the early promo said Bad Bunny was going to wear a dress. He didn't wear a dress, at least not that I saw. So I was glad of that, at least, that, small victory.
He leaves that sanity. In the burning of flags other places, right? Yeah, not during the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm just saying.
I am curious, though, how much Bad Bunny is going to be taxed for having gone to the Super Bowl.
So, by the way, this is the story that I think everyone should be outraged over, right? If Bad Bunny didn't get you going, here is the story, and we've got the tax dollars. If you want to know why California is fading fast and why so many people that when they start making money are out there, and so many people in the crypto world and the IT world and all the other worlds are like they're getting out of there, like they're leaving fast as they can. Let's just break down. We've got some data for people of how much money California made off the Super Bowl of those that were actually making money at the Super Bowl. It really is incredible data.
Well, it is. If you look at Sam Darnold going into the game, here's what his incentives were. If he wins, he's going to receive $178,000 as a bonus.
Yep.
And he will pay $249,000 in taxes to California for his time here, meaning he will lose $71,000.
Yeah.
That's what ended up happening. If he had lost, then he would have gotten $103,000 in bonus, but he would still owe $235,000 in taxes, meaning he would have lost $135,000. So I guess, Sam, congratulations.
Yeah.
You only lost $71,000 for stepping foot in the Commonwealth of California instead of losing $135,000. And what kind of insanity is it that's how the California tax system is?
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is you fly in there and you just do a day's work and you're a performer. They are going to take as much money as they can, and they don't care. Like there was an interesting article I was reading online about this.
I think Bad Bunny changed his name. He's now Sad Bunny because California took all his money.
See, you're not wrong on that one. But they were talking about bands and comedians.
And if you let California keep going, he may soon be like Fatal Attraction Bunny. I mean, there's a whole like slippery slope here.
There's a whole rabbit hole you can go down on this one. Is that what you're telling me right now? Oh, yeah. There you go.
All right. I went there, then you went worse. Okay.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm here all night, folks. No, comedians though are avoiding California for the tax reasons you just said. It's real. Why would you spend the night there if you know you're not going to make near as much money and you can choose to go somewhere else, like go to Nevada, go to New Mexico? I mean, there's a lot of other places you can go to perform, and there's a lot of people that are now saying they're actually avoiding it for the reasons you just described with those bonuses and the taxes.
So California has the highest marginal income tax of any state. Its top marginal rate is 13.3% on wage income and on capital gains that exceed $1 million a year. The top rate for wage income climbs to 14.6% when you include the state disability insurance rate, which has no wage cap. And that's on top of federal taxes. So federal taxes, at the top of the tax bracket, you're paying 37% plus 14.6%. So the reason Darnold owes that money is because he is tallied with 8 duty days in California. While they were there getting ready for the Super Bowl, he got popped with it. Welcome to California. Congratulations on the Super Bowl. And by the way, when you play the Super Bowl in Texas, we don't tax you a penny and you get great Tex-Mex.
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason why, by the way, golfers hate playing and winning at Pebble Beach. They get mad because when they win there, or when there was the LA Country Club at the U.S. Open, they were like, you basically think you're getting this big paycheck, and then you call your agent. You're like, what happened? They're like, dude, you won in California. I can't help you there. Like, if you're going to win your first time on tour, you don't want it to be in California for that reason. For the next 60 seconds, can you hit pause on your life and just think about this? Every day, millions of children face a crushing reality. A constant defeating message echoes in their empty stomachs and their desperate eyes. It is that you don't matter. Poverty doesn't just steal food and shelter. It steals hope, dignity, and the fundamental belief that they are loved. But there's another message, one of boundless love and hope. Through Compassion International, you can change the child's story forever. You can sponsor a child just like I do. You can introduce them to a loving Heavenly Father. You can equip them with education, health care, and the support to overcome poverty. This isn't just about one child. It's about transforming families, revitalizing communities, and changing nations. It's about proving that every child truly matters. So help give a child a future. Give them hope. Visit compassion.com today. That's compassion.com. All right, let's move on to some other big stuff here, Senator, that I want to deal with. And there's something you want to talk about, which I really like this subject, and it deals with left-wing funders that are being exposed. I actually think this is going to be a trend with what we're witnessing with all the attacks on ICE around the country. I think we're going to more of this follow the money. You've been saying that on this show for a while. Follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. And we have a new example of that we're going to expose here. So I hope everyone listening or watching will make sure you hit that share button, share this episode on social media, because we're going to be a part of that in a very big way and explain what we've now found.
Well, there was a very interesting column in the Wall Street Journal about the Mellon Foundation. And the Mellon Foundation is America's biggest funder of the humanities, and it is a radical leftist foundation. And let me read from this column. The University of Virginia launched a hiring spree in 2020 as it pledged to become a racial equity-focused university. A special initiative promised to recruit 30 doctoral fellows and, quote, open the gateway for them to fill tenure-track jobs. One current fellow's specialties include transfeminisms and genderqueer life writing. Another researches how Filipino nurses resist racial capitalism. The program owes its existence to the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, which funded it to the tune of $5 million. With a $7.7 billion endowment, the Mellon Foundation is the nation's largest supporter of the arts and humanities. Its annual giving has long dwarfed that of the National Endowment for the Humanities. In recent years, it has been refashioned as a tool for advancing an identitarian vision of social justice. For academia, the consequences are far-reaching. Through public record requests, I've acquired dozens of proposals and progress reports for Mellon-funded projects. The records show how the foundation has lavishly promoted progressive scholar activism. At the University of Utah, the Transformative Intersectional Collective created workshops on transgender and queer of color critique and, quote, environmental anti-racism, supported by a $500,000 Mellon grant. At the University of California, Santa Cruz, the Visualizing Abolition Project promotes research and art that calls for the elimination of prisons with the support of $8 million from Mellon. For much of its existence, the Mellon Foundation narrowly supported the arts and humanities. One signature project was the creation of JSTOR, the widely used online database of academic research. The foundation avoided controversy. That changed with the dawn of the social justice era. As early as 2014, then President Earl Lewis told the Chronicle of Higher Education that the foundation would take a more activist approach, especially around issues of race. On taking over in 2018, the current president, nutjob is me editorializing, nutjob Elizabeth Alexander, announced that Mellon would view all of its giving through the lens of social justice. This new ideological mission is notable because of Mellon's great influence within the academy, especially in hiring and promoting faculty. As jobs in the humanities have become ever more scarce, Mellon has poured millions of dollars into career-building fellowships and faculty hiring schemes, putting its stamp on professors around the country. Mellon money appears up and down the academic career ladder. The Mellon Mays Undergraduate Fellowship, which has received $38.3 million since 2020, wow, steers college students towards an academic career. The Mellon-funded Dissertation Innovation Fellowship, supported by $8.9 million since 2022, gives a living stipend to 45 graduate students annually. Mellon has given $6 million to Wayne State University, $4.6 million to Texas A&M University, and $15 million to the University of California System, all to hire faculty. With the Mellon emerging faculty leaders and other programs, Mellon's support continues well into a professor's career. Mellon grantees often signal their discriminatory intent. A University of Virginia grant proposal notes that Mellon's $5 million gift would go towards, quote, advancing our goal of doubling the number of faculty of color at UVA by 2030. A University of Oregon proposal promises a special postdoctoral fellowship to establish a pipeline for, quote, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC, in the professoriate. Its progress report notes that, quote, all interviewees identified as Black, Indigenous, and people of color. In other words, we are only looking at people if we can racially discriminate. Perhaps most significantly, Mellon-funded personnel-building programs almost uniformly espouse a distinctly identitarian brand of progressivism. At Emory University, you're going to like this. Mellon Mays fellows study eco-womanism, whatever the hell that is. They study Black trans studies and racial colonial capitalism. Students who specialize in intersectional neologisms will be well prepared for Mellon-funded faculty jobs. In 2023, Ohio State put out a job ad. So this is Ohio State. What are they looking for? A, quote, assistant professor of black sexualities, noting a recent $2 million Mellon Foundation gift that funded 10 new faculty positions.
By the way, I'm just thinking about that there. Like, if you get that job and you're like, do you call mom and are you like proud of that? Or are you more like, yeah, I got the new job?
Well, the person who got it, Zalika Iba Orimi, the professor hired for the job, lists black porn and black sexual logics among her areas of expertise.
Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go.
Mellon has bankrolled many professors notorious for their activism. At the Socialism 2025 conference, Assistant Professor Iman Abdel Hadi referred to her employer, the University of Chicago, as evil and a colonial landlord. By the way, if you call your employer evil, you should be fired. That's just very simple.
Yeah, not hard.
Conceded that working there was useful for political organizing. Ms. Abdel Hadi came up through the University of Chicago's Provost Postdoctoral Fellowship Program, a long-standing Mellon-funded hiring program. A few months after the conference, she was arrested at, wait for it, an anti-ICE protest.
No.
And charged with
charged.
2 counts of aggravated battery of a police officer.
Nah, that's the money well spent, right?
She has pleaded not guilty. Mellon's funding has amplified a bleak trajectory for the academy. Today, a young person drawn to traditional fields like military history or classics should think twice before entering the academy. A young scholar who, quote, advances an anti-capitalist prison abolitionist agenda, as one Ohio State professor put it, can find abundant support, especially from the Mellon Foundation. Higher education reform will only succeed when this unfortunate trend is reversed. And this was written by Mr. Saylor, who's the director of the higher education policy at the Manhattan Institute. This is the kind of poison. If you look at our universities and say, why have they gotten so bad? Why have they gone so far off track? You have radicals who are controlling, as you mentioned before, I've said over and over again.
You're basically saying, we'll give you faculty, we get to pick them out, and this is what you've got to hire, but we'll give you the money to hire them, and then you can radicalize university just by paying and employing the people and putting them and placing them at the universities. This is pay to play in its simplest form.
Look, it's follow the money.
Yeah.
And you have radicals who are taking over. And by the way, Andrew Mellon was not a socialist, was not a transgender, like porn aficionado that we know of, to be fair. But you look at, and this is one of the real challenges, the great capitalists of a prior era, they gave much of their money to foundations, and they initially appointed people to run the foundations, and then time passes. And those foundations over and over and over again have been captured by radical leftists. The Ford Foundation. Henry Ford would roll over in his grave if he knew the garbage the Ford Foundation funds. And it's one of the things people on the right need to think much more carefully about if they are engaged in philanthropy, making sure that it's not captured, because that's been one of the real sources of propaganda and a perversion of these institutions, is capturing the money flow that goes into colleges and universities.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. And you go back to find the money. Let's go back to ICE protests real quick. This is very much going to be the same playbook. It's part of the reason why you say follow the money and see who's bringing it in, because they're paying these activists. There was a video that went viral of them practicing their anti-ICE chants before one of their protests. It looked like in a church. And getting all of the protesters there to then teach them their chants, and the video went viral over the weekend. That's all being funded by somebody. This is not organic.
Yeah, look, Laura Ingraham was talking to some of the protesters on the street. And she said, you should be working at a job. And the protester said, I am. I'm getting paid. Like there is real money that is fomenting violence. And that is quite literally fomenting revolution. That's what they're trying to do.
I got to ask you a question. Can you buy real Bitcoin in your retirement account? Well, if not, it's time to upgrade to Bitcoin IRA. It's 2026, and cryptocurrency is where so many investors are going and diversifying. You can buy and sell Bitcoin inside a tax-advantaged IRA with Bitcoin IRA, and that gives you more ways to diversify and grow your retirement savings. Security is their number one priority, and your assets are protected by military-grade multi-key security, and you're covered up to $250 million in digital asset insurance. So, what are you waiting for? Get in the Bitcoin game today and diversify your portfolio. You'll actually talk to a real person. 866-679-6871. 866-679-7871 or bitcoinira.com/Ben. That's bitcoinira.com/Ben to open a free account and earn up to $1,000 bonus right now. I want to move to Virginia real quick as well, and this is another big story that is happening very quickly post-election day, and it's an important story because I do think this could be a real moment of clarity of, hey, the midterms are coming up, pay attention, Democrats are ready and inspired, but they are working at light speed to enact their radical agenda. You could also argue that they've learned this from Donald Trump. Donald Trump came in rocking and rolling day one into this second term. He learned a lot from his first term. He learned about how fast you can get things done if you're prepared. And now Democrats seem to be doing that with their radical agenda. And Virginia, what they're already doing there, it is a warning for the midterms what can happen if Democrats get power.
Well, and look, understand that there is no such thing as a moderate Democrat anymore.
No, they're dead.
Abigail Spanberger ran claiming to be a moderate, and only the most gullible believed her. All of the Democrats, they've been radicalized. This is a party that is driven by the open border, abolish police, transgender zealots. So what has she done in her first few days? Well, one of the very first things she did is she cut ties with ICE in federal immigration enforcement, which means if Virginia has a criminal illegal alien, if Virginia has an illegal alien who's a murderer,
or a rapist, or a child molester,
they will let them go. And even though they're an illegal alien, Virginia is now going to refuse to cooperate with ICE, refuse to hand murderers over to ICE, and instead, what Abigail Spanberger is saying is the people of Virginia would rather that the murderers be released into their communities and prey on their children. She's also, quite dramatically, this week signed a redistricting bill that is nothing short of radical. And unfortunately, so let's do the math. Virginia has 11 congressional seats. Right now, the current delegation is 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. Virginia just had a takeover of Democrats of the state legislature and the governor's mansion. They redrew the map, and they went from 6 Democrats and 5 Republicans to a map that is designed to produce 10 Democrats and 1 Republican. Now, what does the math mean? So Virginia is it's a blue to purple state. In 2024, 47% of the state voted for Donald Trump. So wow. Kamala won Virginia, but 53-47. It was a very close
very
race.
Tight.
The 47% of Virginians who voted for Trump, they are now going to get 9% of the congressional representation in the state.
Wow.
How about the 52% of Virginia who voted for Harris? You know how much they get?
How much?
91%.
There you go.
52% of the state, the Democrats get 91% of the congressional representation. Now, on Twitter, you could hear the lefties saying, but Texas did it. This is all about Texas. Okay, let's look at the math. Texas, 56% of Texans voted for Donald Trump. In the new map that Texas drew, that 56 will get 79% of the seats. So look, it is drawn to favor the party in power. Yep. But it is not remotely as brazen. By the way, California, their new map, also is designed to give the Democrats more than 90% of the congressional delegation. And you know what? The Northeast is even worse. You look at states like Maine, states like New Hampshire, states like Vermont, states like Rhode Island, states like Connecticut, where states like Massachusetts. Do you know how many Republican members of Congress are elected in Massachusetts?
I want to say it's 1 or 0.
0.
Yeah,
all of New England. England. They're just like Republicans don't exist. We will erase you.
Yeah.
And
by the way, what happens with this? Is this going to be a back and forth tit for tat when you see this type of egregious? So then other states are going to have to counter it. Is that just how we're going to go?
So there was a left-wing Democrat. I responded to this and I tweeted out a brazen abuse of power and an insult to democracy. And I went through the numbers you just talked about. And this left-wing Democrat state senator came back who I'd never heard of and actually didn't even know about this until someone on my staff told me about it. But she responded by saying, "You all started it, and we effing finished it." And by the way, she did not abbreviate effing.
No.
So she's a charming and lovely person, clearly.
Yes.
And you know, there's something richly ironic about it because every Democrat loves to preen about how much they love democracy, and yet it's quite evident that they don't care at all about democracy. What they care about is keeping Democrats in power. That is practically the only thing they care about. I want you to listen to Abigail Spanberger talking about gerrymandering, what she thinks about it. Give a listen.
Because Republicans have to depend on redistricting and stealing votes and taking seats like they did in North Carolina in order to actually be able to win elections.
So we're just going to steal them right back, by golly, right? There's your liberal logic 101.
But it is also the degree it is far more brazen. As I mentioned, Texas, 56% of the state voted for Donald Trump. The new map, if Republicans win in the seats that were drawn, the new map will produce 79% of the congressional delegation to be Republican. That is a difference of 23%. So that's an additional 23%. What did Virginia do? They went from 52% voting for Kamala Harris to getting 91%. That is 39 points higher. That is a massive, and it's a grotesque gerrymander. And by the way, I'm quite confident if they could have drawn it 11-0, they would have.
Yeah.
There are 5 districts that slice through Northern Virginia to get all the liberals that work in the federal government. And they basically take a slice of liberals from Northern Virginia and then stick it with rural Virginias to rob the votes of the rest of the state that is redder.
Yeah, this is going to be their game plan moving forward. It's state after state after state now, all because they say they're doing it in reaction to Texas. No, they've been doing it for a very long time. Now they're just telling you we're doing it on purpose. At least they're being honest about it. I got to give them that. Don't forget, we do the show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so make sure you hit that subscribe or auto-download button wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch this episode on YouTube, so follow us on YouTube and hit that subscribe button there. Don't worry, it doesn't cost you a dime anywhere to listen or watch this show. And the Senator and I will see you back here on Wednesday morning.